Women in military. This is not something that's talked about a lot or often enough. Nia Hartsfield is a courageous woman who served this country as a Navy officer. Yet she had to go through a lot of challenges and suffering, not because of the duty, but because of everything else. This interview will give you an insight about what's happening to the woman in military. And let's face it, this may not be the case for everybody, but this happens a lot. And if you Google it, you find a lot of cases. I believe this interview will give you a great view of what's happening and what we can do to support women in military. And perhaps we can influence in a better way so that they can be treated much better. So enjoy this interview, Nia Hartsfield. So the big question is this: why well-being conscious women just like us who want to live a healthy and happy life are constantly feeling vulnerable, like, what if I get attacked? And so many people who teach self-defense are tough men or martial artists who don't seem to understand what women really go through every day. How can we feel safer and be more confident in our personal safety? That is the question, and this channel gives you the answer. My name is Kinko Hamilton, and welcome to Rise Up Against Violence. All right, ladies, today I have a pleasure of having Miss Nia Hartsfield. I met this wonderful woman through the Self-Defense Women's Facebook group. And when I heard about her story, my heart sunk. And I was just really heartbroken because she will tell you all about it. But she was a former Navy officer, and she had a personal experience during her service time. Then now she is a founder of Hard Candy Self-Defense based in Charleston, South Carolina. And you know what? I went to first time in South Carolina, like last Christmas. They have the best shrimp and grits. I never had grits until then.
Honey.
Yes, love South woman. Anyways, so with that being said, I'd love to welcome Nia Hartsfield. Nia, welcome to the show.
Peace, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, Kinko. I'm really excited to just talk more about experiences that we all share as women or have shared. So thank you so much for having me here.
Absolutely. Pleasure to have you. So first of all, I would like to thank you so much for your service and dedication and sacrifices you had to make for your country. With that being said, Nia, like I said in introduction, my heart broke when I heard your story. You shared with me previously your experience. So if you're comfortable, would you mind sharing with us what's actually happening in the military woman?
I know that this time last year, I would not have ever been able to speak up on what I experienced in the military. After about 12 long weeks of therapy, I was able to find a breakthrough in being able to relate personally to women who have experienced what I have experienced, even if they weren't in the military. So it was 2000, well, honestly, I don't want to give dates, but from my personal experience, it was sexual assault in the workplace where I had been touched inappropriately, inappropriate conversation, which escalated to verbal abuse, intimidation, to the effects of me becoming bulimic, insecure, scared, and a whole lot of other things. I was harassed. I then during an attempt to report the incident, I found myself discovering that the person that I had filed a report with was actually really good friends with my abuser. So my report went nowhere. And the situation just got worse. I was stalked. I was physically hurt, physically harmed. I was sexually assaulted repeatedly. with no end. I was, my belongings, my personal belongings were during inspections. We would have inspections of our berthing, or the rooms where the females sleep on board the ships. And during the inspections, my personal belongings were taken, such as my underwear. Pictures of myself were taken from my rack and held until I did certain things. So you're not getting it back until. Anytime I wasn't on his good side, I would fail my inspections. So he'd come through, he would fail me purposely, and then call over our loudspeaker on the ship, demanding that I report to berthing. So any attempt to try to use my voice as my power, or any attempt to, even when it came to the physical defense aspect of things, those were useless. And I had learned Krav Maga. I'd been doing kickboxing. All of that goes out of the window when you, well, at least for me, with my personal experience, it goes out of the window when you find yourself in the situation. And a lot of people ask, well, why didn't you just report? Or why did you let it go on for so long? Or why didn't you do this? Or why didn't you do that? When you find yourself being psychologically abused to the point of you feel powerless, you feel like there's nothing that I can say or do to change the situation that I'm in. And that's where I was. And I became someone that I just did not know. I became the girl that I always would ask, well, why don't you just leave him? Why don't you just get away from him? I became that girl. And so from this point forward, like in my life and in my personal experience, I know that it should never be a matter of passing judgment, but giving what we know, even if it's our own testimony, giving the tools that we can provide other women, whether it be empowerment tools, whether it be, for me, it was therapy. I used kickboxing as therapy, but then I became more of an aggressive person. I became very aggressive. I started seeing this person's face on my boxing bag. I would go to the firearms range and see this person's face on my targets. And I knew that that wasn't what was going to help me. I knew that it wasn't helping. It wasn't allowing me to heal. I just became more of an aggressive person. I'm a mom of 3 boys. And I know you share with me that you're a mom of boys as well. And it's hard to maintain that balance of femininity when you've already been in a sexual abusive type of ordeal, and you're trying to raise boys and you're married, or any other interaction with males has changed for me, whether it be in business, in the workplace, anywhere. So it's just changed my look on life. But in the process, I'm still trying to heal by trying to keep that balance of just remembering who I am and understanding that that person can never take from me. They can never take from me what I have within. So it's all a matter of just giving back to these girls and giving back to these women and reminding them, like, look, you have to look in the mirror and you have to remember who you are. You have to remember why you are, why you're still here. Even if there are many women who have been killed in situations that I was in. And this guy had actually pushed me one night. We were topside on the ship. And I'll never forget this, but it was the night that I told him, like, I was standing up for myself. I was bold enough to say, you know what, look, this is it. Like, you're not going to do this to me anymore. Then I was pushed and my back was towards the lifelines. And so that's when I knew, like, okay, either this person is freaking a maniac and didn't care about the consequence of me possibly falling over the side of the ship, or I really need to do something about this. And nothing came of it. Like I said, the reports fell on deaf ears. That was a joke. That was a complete joke to report this dude, a joke. They were all friends. They were all in cahoots. When you're talking about people, you know, with power, in positions of power, it's, you don't have any. You have none. And the only thing I tell women that we're capable of is setting those boundaries from the beginning. If it doesn't look right, it isn't right. If it doesn't feel right, it isn't right. Stand up and set those boundaries from the beginning. And it's never to say that it was my fault. And I refuse to take ownership for any of that. And I don't ever want any woman to take ownership for what it is that she experiences. But what you must do is take responsibility for setting the boundaries necessary in your life so that people know from the beginning that you're not the one. And because these criminals, what they do, they pick them off. They choose victims based upon how we carry ourselves. They choose victims based upon what we allow in conversation. So even when I go back and I reflect on just a self-accountability measure for me, it's never your fault, but you have to consider the accountability aspect of what we may have allowed. Because when we allow certain things, it can be perceived as the green light or permissive or consent. So perhaps maybe in conversation, I allowed the conversation to go too far with this guy. Perhaps there are a number of things I can say, could, should, would, but I know from the moment that I said never again in my life, that those boundaries remain in place to this day. They don't change.
Nia, first of all, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. And it is such a heartbreaking thing, for especially happening to the women who are serving our country, committed to serve our country, brothers and sisters and neighbors. It's just really makes me, angry, but also very sad, and it's just so I don't know. I'm just speechless. But I hope this guy, can I report him? Like, how does it work? This is off the topic, but we can talk about this later. But referring to what you just mentioned at the end, we have to set the boundary from the beginning. Mm-hmm. For those women, young girls who are in military now or thinking to going to military, what kind of advice could you give it to them?
Wow, that is, Kingo, that is such a powerful question. When we join the military as women, there is, of course, we have our training, our basic training, and they want you physically fit. They want you to understand the ranking system and, your chain of command and how things work. I'll just say this. Much of the military lifestyle, you can't learn in a book. You can't learn by watching a movie. You won't learn by being married to a spouse that is in the military. You're not going to learn by being the son or daughter of someone in the military. A lot of it is experience. You just have to go through it. But what I wish I had when I was a young girl, I was 18 when I joined the Navy. I wish I had someone to say or teach me the importance of setting those boundaries. Like I can't speak on boundaries enough. If someone ever asked me, what's your weapon of choice when it comes to the safety of women, it's gonna be mindset, boundaries. Not a firearm, not a knife, not a pepper spray, not a taser, nothing. It's literally mindset and boundaries. And you'd be surprised. The first part of this interview was so difficult for me, but I'm gonna say this. Now I'm feeling it now, but you'd be surprised how many women have said things like, all right, so you're fresh meat to the command. Don't be the new command hoe. Or, it's almost like they have adopted that the toxicity of the environment. It's almost like, okay, you're expected to become this girl who's, with no boundaries, this girl with no self-respect or regard. And then when you are the one girl that stands up to yourself, you're considered the bitch. You're considered the person that's too serious. So you don't ever really find where you can, where's that balance? But I'm going to tell you, if it were my niece going in or my daughter going in, I would certainly, This is something you have to learn before you ever get into the military. This is something that parents have to teach their daughters from such an early age. You just don't turn 18 or become an adult and then all of a sudden consider, oh, I need boundaries. Oh, I need to consider all these different rules to adhere to in life. No, we start teaching our children, our daughters especially, how to set these boundaries in place, how to use their voice as their weapon. I'm talking about as early as age 3. I would say as early as they can start speaking, start teaching your children certain words, no, and respecting that even as a parent. When a child says no, just teaching them simply no. When we talked about how self-defense, or it's just my belief, this is my philosophy, that self-defense is 80% cognitive. So I love that on every corner of America, we have self-defense institutions. I love it. That's great. It's a great outlet. It's a great way to work out, lose weight, stay in shape. It's a great way to look the part, if you understand what I'm saying. It's a group, you see them walking in, you got your, your dojo, you going to your dojo, and you got all your gear. It's a great way to look the part. But when you're really faced with a situation where it's life and death, there are no rules. So there are rules when we speak on, when we practice mixed martial arts. There are rules. There's respect to the opponent. You have to respect that. You have to honor certain things in mixed martial arts. When you're speaking on real life situations, ain't no rules. And it's not enough to just look the part. It's great to position yourself as a hard target, which is another aspect of what I teach with my sweet technique. Positioning yourself as a hard target, it's great because it's a deterrent. You use that as a deterrent against victimization. But essentially, it's about prevention. It's all about prevention and how you see the world. That's why I say it's self-defense, personal protection is 80% cognitive and really 20% physical. And then we have to understand too, statistically, I hate using the word statistic because sometimes I know and feel that a lot of this is kind of skewed, but we are conditioned socially to believe that an attacker would be some random stranger when we walk out of our door. What I have learned from personal experience, from the headlines in the news, from people that I know, it's 7 out of 10 times going to be someone you know. You're going to know the person. And those are the people that we feel most comfortable with. These are the people that we tend to let our guards down with. We believe, we move in life and in a relationship with them. They would never do this, or I've known this person since I was 5 years old, so we really have to raise our sense of awareness and know and how to call and identify when we are in unsafe situations, even in our relationships.
I totally agree. And I love the fact that you said that as soon as the child can speak, 2 years old, 3 years old, just teach them to set the boundary. And then when they say no, we gotta respect it. And that's something that, as a parent, like I wish I knew this. I wish I knew to set the boundary 10 years ago. Before I had a kid, I should have respected his no and stuff. And now I'm like over 40 and just finally realized how important it is to have boundaries, right? But yes, I totally agree with that. Nia, so you mentioned a sweet technique, and that is about making yourself a hard target and mindset and boundaries.
Yeah. Oh, yes. The sweet technique, as you know, my business is hard candy self-defense. So of course it's a play on hard candy. A lot of people ask me, so why hard candy? Why hard candy? How does that have anything to do with self-defense? Well, what we've come up with is sweet, be feminine, be in your essence of just being a woman. We're all these things. Be sweet, but also be tough. You have to, even if it's just mentally. And I don't mean be sweet but tough and get to the gym and start pumping iron and all this crazy stuff. becoming aggressive, and you got to be like a lot of the girls we see in the movies, Laura Croft and all those people kicking in midair and all that stuff. But just know that there's a balance. As much as you are sweet, you need to be tough. And so the SWEET technique, it stands for Surviving with Effective Escape Tactics. That's the acronym for SWEET, Surviving with Effective Escape Tactics. And that's where we've incorporated the 80% cognitive, 20% physical in our trainings. So we speak on the assertiveness, we speak on the awareness, we teach on the proactive measures, the preventative measures, the how to, because for women, we can tell you what you need to do all day. All right, you can preach that all day long. We need to bridge the gap, the link in the how to. How do I become more confident? There's so many women out here, they want to be confident, they want to be bold and brave. They don't know how to do that. And a lot of that it starts with the upbringing, where parents are not respecting their children's boundaries. As parents, and because I teach elementary age students as well. So children as young as 5 years old, I teach. I go to elementary schools in my area and I teach children. It's not so much physical with them due to liability, but it's for children, it's the cognitive. So you have to teach children how to set their own boundaries as a child. When you know, teaching your child how to say no and mean it, no and looking in their eye, no and looking in the person's eyes. And as a parent, respecting that, and as a parent, you just have to, of course, have enough sense to know when my child just being a brat, and when this is actually a learning moment for me as a parent. When my son, when I go into the bathroom and he pushes the door back closed, no, respect that. Don't just bust in the bathroom on them because I've seen what you had all your whole life. I've been changing your diaper since you were 3. No, you need to respect your children's privacy, And so it starts there. We are teaching our children how to be in relationships from such an early age that when they move on to more serious relationships, the platonic, romantic relationships, that they know how to be respected, how to be respected, how to set those boundaries, what to expect in relationships, because their mother has respected them, a mom to a son, a father to a daughter. So that's where it's most important. It cannot be when you turn 18, oh, you're going into the military. Well, you need to do this, and this. It's not a set of rules. It's a lifestyle that we have to incorporate from an early age. This is all a part of survival skills, just as much as we teach them to eat and, just eat and every other skill that we teach our children. Personal protection is a life skill, and that we have to start at a very, very young age.
Thank you. And thank you. That's all I can say. I mean, 100%, 1000% agree with you, Nia. And I'm so glad you said that. Yes, kids could be brat, but you have to allow them to use their voice and set their boundary and we can show them how we respect that. Then they can earn the respect that they can have for themselves as well, right?
That's right.
All right, Nia. So I want to change the gear a little bit.
Yeah, this is good.
Huh?
I said, this is getting good.
Awesome. Yay. So I want to change the gear a little bit, because when I talked to you initially, we kind of agreed on so many things. That's why I've been looking forward to this interview. One of the things that we agreed on was that you kind of touched upon this, but there are so many martial arts dojos, self-defense, Krav Maga things, and as well as domestic abuse, advocate places or shelters and all those places. However, on the contrary, the number of abuse victims is skyrocketing. There's no trace of becoming smaller. More and more people are abused, victimized, right? There's just something wrong in this picture.
Oh yeah. We spoke about this. This was when I knew you were my girl. Because when we talk about that, I was like, there's a realization that we have to come to in the world. And that is that, and I know this may get me a whole lot of blowback and a whole lot of debate, but I'm just going to say it. When you are talking about self-defense, mixed martial arts is just that, an art. It's an art. When you are speaking on reality, real life, we're talking about on every corner in America. I can within a 15-mile radius of where I live, I can count at least seven self-defense institutions. Yet South Carolina is leading in the nation with domestic violence and violent crimes against women. So the correlation here, you got to think about all these things. So as much as they throw the statistics out, we have to consider too, what measures are being taken to lower this rate? What's happening here? Okay, so let's just talk about it. The domestic violence shelters, we have one. We have one, Kinko. And I had an experience where I wanted to go teach, wanted to bring some information to the women there. All right, the women's of the victims of domestic violence. I wanted to go teach them some things. But personal opinion, it seems to me when provided tools of empowerment, that just means that there's going to be a decrease in the women that we house, which in turn affects state funding and grant money. Okay, so I don't really think that we're looking for a solution here. I don't think, no, I know that we are, and many people that agree with what we're speaking on, but I don't really think that like collectively our social, the society, the American society is really looking for a solution, because this is the culture. And as much as we want to point, we look at other countries and the way that they treat their women and women's rights, we really need to take care of home. Like, we really need to start finding different ways. And we need to stop lying to these women, taking their money at these self-defense institutions, because it's a sport, okay? It's an art, way of life, or a sport, okay? And being taught by these guys, and no disrespect to any of them, because this stuff's pretty cool to me. I love watching the MMA. I do. I love it. But when you're talking about a woman like me who grew up, I was a fighter growing up. I'm serious. I didn't take crap off anybody growing up. But when you take a woman like me who was put in a situation where it was, okay, this is too much for me to deal. This is, oh God, this big guy, this big guy, this intimidating dude, all of his, his prominence and level of importance where I am. All of that stuff goes out the window. And you literally, it's almost like a submissiveness to what's happening. You don't even think about fighting. You don't, that whole tough girl thing, who I was before all this happened, I didn't even know who I was. I became some timid, insecure, scared, depressed, suicidal. I was making death threats to people who were triggering me during that time. It was a lot. I remember there was at one point during that time that another female she didn't attack me, but she was aggressive to me. All right. And this was all based on the rumors that had been passed around the command about me during this whole process of the sexual assault. So of course you have women who aren't teaming up, who aren't looking out for each other, but you got other women who are saying, looking at you like you're the bottom, like you're the bottom feeder. And so she snatched my earphones out my ear one morning. And I turned to her and I pushed her up against the wall and I threatened to take her life. That's how angry I was within myself at, of course, the negative energy that this dude was passing to me, I was then passing on to other women. So we have to remember that it's not just, what we're dealing with, it's what we're putting out as well. And I knew it was time for me to heal from a lot of things. I had to take time and just heal from this thing and figure out a real solution to it. It's not enough to just go say, sign up, at a kickboxing, take some kickboxing classes. It wasn't enough for me to go take a Krav maga class. It wasn't enough for me to do, the jiu-jitsu or I trained with Kapakuyalua, trained with Russian Sistema. That just was never enough for me. That's why I never got a belt in any of it, because I knew every time I went into these trainings, I was always brought back to that place where I was literally torn down to nothing on the inside. And I knew that it wouldn't serve me just to be in there sporting around, because I didn't want to have respect for any opponent, because I knew that during those trainings, I would have blackout moments. So the only for honestly, we need to just start pushing the information to be more realistic. Training women, the mind must be trained. The mind must be trained. It just can't be these buzzwords like situational awareness. That's a real big buzzword. Well, okay, so what is situational awareness? And everyone's kind of like, well, obviously situational awareness of the situation. No, women have to be taught how. There are different, it's a skill set. That's literally a skill that you have to work on. And you, like me, we're moms. It's hard to be situationally aware all the time. I have 3 small children. It's not realistic for me to always, I would go crazy. You go nuts. So what you do is we teach strategy. If you're a mom with small children, have a plan of action. How am I going to enter my vehicle? What is my plan to exit my vehicle? Where am I going to park when I pull up to target? Which entrance am I going to take? How are we going to exit? You have to build upon sharpening the skill set.
I have nothing further to add. Yeah.
We can talk about this all day. It's so good
No, but that's so true. Like, I mean, we are, I believe we are all situationally aware, but before people talk about, like, when we talk about, situational awareness, people like, we have to be like Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So this person went to this one and this, like, no, it's like, we are all already aware. We just have to become more like self-aware, and based on what, like you said, what you do, how your life is, how your lifestyle looks like, you just have to cater for that.
Right.
That's
right. We do a lot of there are a lot of things that we do as women that can be very careless. So I love that you said that. I love that you said it's not necessarily about situationally aware, but being self-aware. What are the things that we're doing? What bad habits do we have that are potentially contributing to the likelihood of us becoming a victim? All right. So we have to think about the what ifs. You have to, as bad as this may sound, we have to put ourselves in the minds of a criminal. You literally have to think like a criminal. If someone was trying to kidnap my child, okay, what information am I providing them? So, your children were in elementary school. I've had my children in elementary school. If you've ever been a car rider, there is a little badge that you put on your rearview mirror that gives the information to what school your child goes to and the number, I guess the little car rider number. And a lot of times I will see that same decal in the rearview mirror of a vehicle parked at Target or Walmart or any other place out in town. So if I'm a criminal, I see that you're a mom. I see that you have a small child. I see that your child attends ABC Elementary School. You see what I'm saying? If I want, I can break into your vehicle later on that night, take that decal, and I'm the one that shows up to the school to pick your child up. Your child jumps into the vehicle thinking it's mom or dad in the front seat, and it's someone totally different. You see a lot of times where, and this is all accountability. This is all accountability. It's not about fault. It's about accountability. What am I doing? What habits do I have? What am I doing that may likely be increasing my chances of victim, even in relationships? What is it about me that I keep attracting these abusive guys? Why is it just, this is my 3rd abusive relationship? You just have to take a moment to consider self. Like, what is it? What is it about me? What habits do I have? What energy am I giving off that could possibly be attracting this type of, you see, what is it? So we have to stop and we have to take those accountability measures. We have to take moments to reflect on self. It's not always about the criminal. It's about, because the criminal is only looking for the easiest target. They target the easiest, they target who they think they can take advantage of. That's all strategic on their end. You have to play the same game. You have to do it like it's a countermeasure. You have to consider ways to counteract the likelihood. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, it is really, that's why I don't like the word self-defense. I really prefer like a personal safety or personal protection or safety lifestyle, because self-defense, gives me an impression of I'm already like being defeated. I'm already a loser, and I have to protect myself to come out from there.
Love
And
that.
that's the style that mainstream self-defense teaches, right? But we women really have to focus on, yes, we all are bruised, we are all traumatized at some level, but we have to really, what's the right word?
You have to take a different way of thinking. It's a different perspective. We
proactive about it. And it's not about like, just let's get rid of defend. I mean, yes, there's a time we have to defend, but like you said earlier, prevention saves you pretty much everything, even like what you eat from, right? I mean,
you are so right.
Organic person and stuff, but like take care of yourself, eat good food, drink water and all that, and they'll help you to stay healthy, be healthier. Same thing in self-defense too. Be proactive, like Nia said, mindset. What's about me? If every every situation looks similar, but involving different people, different person, the commonality is you, not them. So let's reflect on that. And
I'm telling you, and it's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah.
I've certainly gotten blowback. I spoke once on fault and accountability. I spoke on that because the buzzword last year, about 2 years ago, was victim shaming. That was a really big buzzword. And there was some gray area there. And what was being missed was the point. It was never about being shamed as the victim. First, you need to change your mindset because you're not a victim. You got to leave that behind you. You are here. You are present in this moment. You are a victor. I want women to, like myself, if you've ever been in a situation or have ever had, because I'm going to tell you right now, Kinko, that wasn't my first experience in the military. That's just what propelled, that was the trajectory, I can't speak. That was the trajectory that pushed me to finally doing something about it. Because I had been a victim a number of times, Kinko. That was my mindset, victim. And then you start attracting just what, you understand what I'm saying? It wasn't until I changed my thinking. I had to change I had to transform my way of thinking. You're not a victim, Nia. When I hear women say that, I was a victim of domestic violence for 6 years. You're not a victim. You're present in this moment. You are a victor. So let's stop right there. This is where we start to grasp the concept of taking accountability for how I'm going to prevent this type of cycle, this type of happening from ever occurring again in my life. How do we start there? We have to start there. That's what I want women. If there's anything I want to leave women with, anyone listening to this today, I want to leave you with that. You gotta you gotta trash the victim mindset. You gotta dump that in the trash. You have to, or you'll always find yourself looking over your shoulder, and nervous, and you're scared to start a new relationship, or you can't leave the relationship that you're in. All right, because you're always thinking that it's gonna happen. I'm a victim. No. You gotta be thinking about what's gonna happen if it ever, and what am I gonna do to prevent it? two ways of thinking. When we got this is how you change it. Not opening up a self-defense studio. I'm not opening up a self-defense studio, Kinko. People ask me all the time. They say, Nia, where's your studio? I don't have a studio. Because if opening up a studio was effective, then the rate at which women are being victimized would be dropping, because I see one on every corner in America. So I come to you, we have discussions like this, which I love. I love this.
Absolutely. You know, it's coming from you, from your experience. It's just really inspiring and encouraging for women to really, even for me, I really appreciate you. I really appreciate all you've done, all you're doing, and being an inspiration to all women.
Yes.
To really be courageous, because yes, fear is contagious, but also courage, right? That's what I want to do. That's why I started this channel, and I'm so glad you're here and join me in this show. So Nia Hartsfield, it's been a pleasure having you. Is there any last word you'd like to share with the audience?
Ladies, gentlemen, fathers, especially fathers, love your daughters. Teach them how to be loved. Teach them what to expect. Show them what that looks like. Because I'm telling you, and that's why I don't just teach women. When people they ask me, so do you only teach women? No, I want the dads, I want the boyfriends, I want the brothers. Because it's so, I'm telling you, like, we need you to love us properly. We need you to put yourself in our shoes for once, you know, like, think about the fact that there are things that we have to consider as women that you don't as a man. Like, before I leave the house, I got to get my purse. I got to make sure I got my gun. I got to make sure I got my knife. I got to make sure that I'm looking. I got to do all these different things before I get out my car. It's an elevated level of awareness that we have to have as women. And we need to make sure that I need more men involved in supporting what it is that we do. It just can't be a band of women. I love that band. I love this network. I love this network of women. But when we have real men standing behind us, pushing and supporting this movement, that's the ultimate. That's what's really going to seal the deal and have many people, legislators, take us more seriously. Because that's a whole other topic. But even when it comes down to that, so if you have a guy in your life, your dad, thank him today for being not just your protector, but a guide in teaching you. If you had a dad who's one time ever just taught you anything, even if it was just through love, thank him today. Thank him today. And women, every woman that's listening to the sound of my voice, if you have ever walked around considering yourself a victim, as long as you are living and breathing and you are in the present, and you are in this moment presently, you are no longer a victim. And now is the time, even if it's just by a little bit, to start telling your story, encouraging other women, speaking on platforms like this, teaching your daughters and your nieces. We have to break this cycle. We have to.
Nia, thank you so much for joining us.
All right. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Would you like to get the advices from the world's top self-defense experts? If so, go in and get your pass from www.womensselfdefensesummit.com.